Hi, I'm Madhavi.
And I'm Mark.
Today's story comes from Archie's big book of friendship adventures.
These stories are a part of the What's the Buzz Early Learners program. We hope you enjoy. Archie's story. Archie has a fight. Archie felt like he was flying through the air as his legs carried him across the playground with Tobias. He could feel the wind in his hair as he ran past the play equipment, past the lunch seats, past the bins, past the grass, and kept on running until they reached the tree of golden jewels. This was what they called the big pine tree that stood tall over the back fence.
Archie and Tobias loved to collect the golden monkey nuts that fell from the tree. They were their golden jewels. They were excited and threw themselves onto their hands and knees and started collecting the biggest and the brightest.
"Look, Tobias, look at this one," cried Archie.
Tobias swung around to look. It was a beauty. It was wonderful. It was gold, shiny and huge. It was the biggest golden jewel they had ever seen.
"Oh, Archie, it's brilliant. Let's call it the king." Tobias praised Archie. Secretly, Tobias wished he had found the king. But he bravely smiled and he shared in Archie's excitement. Tobias was a good friend. They eagerly collected as many golden jewels as they could. To keep them safe, Archie and Tobias pulled the bottom of their jumpers out and packed the jewels into them. They collected with one hand and used the other hand to keep the golden jewels wrapped up safely.
The bell rang and it was time to go back to class. First, the boys had to take their golden jewels from their jumpers and put them in their school bags. As they stood together, a strange thing happened. Each of them dropped their golden jewels onto the floor. The golden jewels hit the floor and bounced everywhere. The boys were shocked. To make things worse, they didn't know which ones were theirs. They both dropped to the floor and started grabbing them. Archie shouted, "Those are mine!" Tobias shouted, "Those are mine!"
The boys' fingers moved fast. Their faces looked worried, their bodies were wound up tightly, and their feelings were big and strong. They scooped up as many golden jewels as they could, but each of them felt like they were losing some of their most precious ones. Archie could feel himself getting hot and bothered. He couldn't think. He was just grabbing, hoping to make things fair and hoping he wouldn't lose too many.
He'd never felt like this before. It didn't feel good. Then he saw Tobias reach out for the king. He grabbed for it as he did, and he scratched Tobias's hand. It hurt Tobias, and he let out a scream. He dropped his golden jewels and held his scratched hand.
Before they could say anything, Miss Marshall arrived, and her serious shadow fell over them. She used a calm voice and told them to move away from each other and take some time to settle down. Miss Marshall picked up the rest of the golden jewels so they would be safe. She was smart, and she knew that all children argued sometimes. She also knew that arguments couldn't be settled until hot, fast tempers were given time to fade away. Archie knew he had to think of an idea that would be fair for his friend Tobias and fair for him.
How did Archie feel? Is there a way to make this better for Tobias and himself? What would you do if you were Archie?
Let's find out what happens next. Later, Miss Marshall brought Archie and Tobias together to talk. Archie wanted to fix things. He wanted to stay friends with Tobias, and he knew the best way to do this was to be friendly. As Archie sat down, he looked across the table and smiled at Tobias. Tobias didn't smile back. He looked away and Archie could see he'd been crying. Archie worried he might lose his friendship with Tobias.
Miss Marshall lightly touched Archie's hand. He could tell by her smile that he wasn't in trouble and she was going to help. "Archie, what happened?" she asked.
We were putting the golden jewels into our school bags. We were doing it fast and we dropped them. They went everywhere and we were grabbing them, trying to get them back, Archie explained.
"How are you feeling, Archie?" quizzed Miss Marshall.
I felt hot. Everything felt fast, replied Archie. All I wanted was my golden jewels.
Miss Marshall leaned closer to Archie and softly asked, "How do you think Tobias was feeling?"
The same as me. I was frightened he'd pick up my golden jewels, and he was frightened that I'd pick up his, and then I scratched him. I didn't mean to. I tried to grab the king. I'm sorry, Tobias, Archie said, bursting into tears.
For the first time, Tobias looked at Archie. "Tobias, what do you think happened?" Miss Marshall asked.
The same as Archie, explained Tobias.
"How did you feel, Tobias?" asked Miss Marshall.
The same as Archie. I felt hot. Everything happened too fast.
"What upset you the most, Tobias?" asked Miss Marshall.
When Archie scratched me, explained Tobias, it hurt. I was going to pick up the king and give it to Archie. I didn't mean to hurt you, Tobias. I'm sorry, Archie sobbed. I know that now, Archie. I'm sorry too. Please don't cry, replied Tobias.
"Tobias, how can we fix things?" quizzed Miss Marshall.
Can Archie and I share our golden jewels out properly, suggested Tobias.
"That's smart thinking," answered Miss Marshall. "Archie, is this a good way to fix things up?"
Yes, please. I was thinking the same, replied Archie. Can we? The boys went to their school bags, got the golden jewels from them and shared them out. Miss Marshall added the ones she'd collected from the floor too. Archie wanted Tobias to have more and Tobias wanted Archie to have more.
They talked happily together as they sorted them, and both boys were pleased that their friendship was still as strong as ever.
And soon they were making plans to collect more golden jewels tomorrow.